Hey, Belinda.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great.
And then we have Aries.
Hi.
Hey, Aries. Happy to be wearing your Southern gear.
I was so excited to put this on.
I know.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey, y'all.
We'll be getting started in about 10 minutes. We hear your snacks, but just kidding, they're not snacks. It's just school supplies.
I bet. Look, I didn't know that really came to
my Yeah, thanks for being here. We'll get started, like I said, in about 10 minutes. And just a reminder, the order is Belinda, Tony, Abdi, Aries, then Jesus. And if you're not it's not your turn to answer, if you could just mute just in case you got like the gardener by your house or, any other side sounds. I'll be doing the same.
So, Erin, doctor, how's your day going?
Oh, great. We had virtual tours this morning.
Good.
And this is the last event for today. We had a nice panel yesterday on the history of HBCU, so that was nice.
That's good. That sounds like a lovely day.
Yeah, we have 175 people registered for this session.
Oh, only? All right.
So yeah, we're doing our panel, then Q&A at the end. Voila, magic.
Well, that sounds good. That sounds like a good flow. We're planning our Black History Month. Well, we already planned it, so like all the events are slowly happening. So Aries or Eris? Sorry, I don't want to say your name wrong.
Aries.
Oh, like Aries. Oh, okay. Yeah. Hi, nice to meet you.
Kinda, but a little bit different. Nice to meet you too.
I really want to get that right.
Aries, but not so much emphasis.
Aries.
I was just breaking it down. Aries.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's really important to me to say people's names correctly. But at Google Black History Month, and so far the events are like there was like a fireside. Really cool. Just holding how you got character and all that stuff. So I think we have good programming. Gotta keep it black. Yeah, are you still at Southern?
I just graduated from Southern in December.
Oh, congrats! Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
It's not easy. So
it was really cool because we got to have an in-person ceremony, so that was really like special.
Wow. That's good. I'm glad you got that. It's a really special experience, so I would hate if you didn't experience it.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's good. I should have worn my CAU stuff. Is it too late?
You have like 5-ish minutes, so I have confidence in you.
I feel like I'm being dramatic.
There we go.
Hey, Alti.
How you doing?
Good, good. All right, we got everybody. Let's see. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started in about 5 minutes. We are expecting about 170-ish people. But we're not gonna wait too long for like all those people to arrive.
Okay.
And if it's not your turn to speak, if you could mute your microphone just in case you have any like gardeners or random outside sound that happens to pop up. Thank you all, of course, for being here yet again. Greatly appreciated. These types of events tend to be, highly sought out from students so that they can hear, that it can be done in the different ways and paths that you all have taken and the different journeys they've led you to up until this point. See, everybody's repping their schools. Great, great. That's a track jacket.
It is. I told you I was gonna have something for you.
There we go.
Shirt. It's like a little graphic shirt, graphic tee.
Nice.
Yeah.
Keep building that collection.
I'll make sure to bring you some.
I rep all of the HBCUs, so don't discriminate. To those that are joining us in the audience, thank you for joining us on our choice, our voice, a panel of California Community College transfer students. We'll be getting started in about 2 minutes, but thank you for joining us. All right, it is 4 o'clock on the dot Pacific Standard Time, so we have a lot, and the clock will run out on us, so we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Erin Azusettle, and I'm the Partnership Relations Coordinator for the Transfer Guarantee Agreement to HBCUs. Today we have an amazing panel of California Community College transfer students, that some graduates, some that are current students. The order of the program, we will have our panel. I'll be asking the questions to the panelists, and then the last 30 minutes will be a time for Q&A. So that's when you can go ahead and place your questions in the chat, and we will address those during that session. Just a little bit of background. I'm also an HBCU alum, proud Fisk University alum. And I also work with the students that transfer to the HBCU. So the students that you see here today, we've been in communication throughout their transfer process and transition at their HBCU. Most of them, everybody except for Tony. We got in touch kind of halfway through that process. So those students that are in the audience that will be transferring, let's say fall 2021 and beyond, this might be you on this panel one day. So thank you for joining us. So we'll go ahead and get started with some introductions. Belinda, you can go ahead and kick us off.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Belinda Freeman. I attended Long Beach City College and transferred to the illustrious Clark Atlanta University in the fall of 2017. I graduated in 2019 with a degree in mass media arts with a concentration in television. And I'm currently an account manager at Google in the Chicago office, but working from home. And what my job entails usually is supporting our largest clients with their digital marketing strategy across all the platforms like search and YouTube.
Hey guys.
Tony?
Hey guys, my name is Tony Hudson. I'm from Sacramento, California, where I attended Cosumnes River College, and then I transferred to the amazing Dillard University in New Orleans, Louisiana. I majored in mass communications and got a minor in criminal justice. Then I went to, now I'm in law school. I go to Southern Law Center. That's in Baton Rouge, and I worked at the Supreme Court of Louisiana pretty much my last year in undergrad, and just working my way up, just trying to be that nice defense attorney that I would love to be.
Awesome, thank you. Abdi?
Yeah. Here it's evening where I'm at, but I know it's like afternoon for you guys. My name is Abdi Hussein. I'm from San Diego, California. I attended Cuyamaca Community College. I am a graduating senior here at ASU, majoring in interdisciplinary studies. My focuses are psychology and sociology. I also have a unique perspective because I'm a student athlete, so I'm a member of our championship track team, I should add. And my next step for me is going to be graduate school. And I've been blessed to have been admitted at North Carolina Chapel Hill. And I still have a few more rounds of interviews for a couple schools. But yeah, that's me. I'm pleased to be speaking with you guys. So if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate. We just want to help you make the best choice.
Awesome, and congrats. That's new.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Aries?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aries Green. I'm from Antioch, California, and I attended Los Alamos College in Pittsburgh, California, transferred to the Southern University in the fall of 2018 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I majored in psychology, recently graduated in December. I got my bachelor's of science. And so right now, I pursue my master's in marriage and family therapy for the fall of 2021.
Thank you. And last but not least, Jesus.
Yeah. So greetings, everyone. My name is Jesus Murillo. I attended Colleges Sequoias, which is in the Central Valley, Visalia, California, where I got my associate's degree in political science. I then went to the illustrious Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, where I got my BA in political science. And I'm currently a graduate student at Harvard Divinity School, where I'm getting my master's in theological studies.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So with these panels, we try to have a diverse group of students from different HBCUs, community colleges, different pathways. So just kind of keep your ear out for things that you connect with in these students and their journeys. So question number one, first things first, why did you choose an HBCU in your campus specifically?
Great question. So I went to college to get a job, and I had the opportunity of attending an HBCU tour, and I absolutely fell in love with CAU. My original plan was to be a journalist, and taking into consideration what my major was going to be, I realized the alumni network, after doing some more research, was really, really robust. And the resources were there. They had a TV studio like on campus, and there's also proximity to CNN. So that definitely helped me choose where I wanted to go. So I'm really happy with my choice, because I think being in the right place at the right time and taking advantage of as many opportunities as you can, it's definitely something that helped me with my success today. I worked really hard as a student, and I played equally hard, I'm not gonna lie. So I was a reporter and a producer for CAU TV, and I also started a club on behalf of Planned Parenthood Southeast Advocates to educate my peers about consent and other reproductive health and reproductive justice issues. And I also had like 2 to 3 internships at a time, and I worked for the Hawks. Like, I was keeping my eyes in different things, just trying to see what would work, because I knew the transferable skills would come in clutch later on.
Thank you.
That is a great, great question. Why did I choose a HBCU? Well, first, being from Sacramento, I really didn't hear about. Similar to Belinda, I went on the HBCU tour, which if anyone is on here, go on the tour if you can. It's because just I stumbled into the tour. It was just like a stumbling situation to where I'm like, okay, I'll just take this trip. But honestly, like visiting those schools and just having that different perspective is just like I never had even heard about it. So it was just one of those eye-opening things. Was like, I have to get there. Like, I'm going to get there. It was one of those things. So I ended up choosing Dillard University. That was literally the first school we went to go visit. Just meeting the people there, just was a small, the school is not as big as some of the bigger schools, but it was more so family-based. And it just was like, I just stepped on a campus and it just, we connected. And just me trying to be a lawyer there, they have the best program for one of the best programs for Black students. So it just everything really just worked itself to where I needed to go there, and we made it happen. So just great school, great school.
For me, went to a high school where they kind of pushed the California state schools. So I went to San Diego State for a couple semesters, and really I was thinking about HBCUs in high school, but because I already had that figured out that I was going to San Diego State and it was like my local state school, that's why I didn't go right away. And then when I got there, it wasn't a good fit for me. And I was like, if it's going to be a college experience, I don't want my college experience to be this. And I had a cousin who had went to Fisk, and I've spent time in Nashville before, so I kind of knew a little bit about it, but not enough. But me going was kind of just me being hard-headed and saying, I'm going to get my way to an HBCU campus. And it was a little bit, once I became part of the Umoja program and learned more about it and talked to my counselors, I found out that we had a transfer agreement with it. And then all these schools and the options were pretty much endless. So that was how, I came across HBCUs.
Yeah, so for me,
Sorry.
it was kind of the same.
Sorry, Aries, real quick, Abdi, and how'd you decide
sorry.
on Alabama State specifically?
Okay, for me, it was recruiting. So I got recruited here, but I was thinking about Xavier. That was the first school that I got in contact with, Xavier in Louisiana. I really wanted to go to Prairie View because that's kind of the big one that everybody knows about. But for me, it was recruiting. I got recruited to come here to Alabama State, and I didn't really even get a chance to visit. So it was like much the mentality of jump and the net will appear, and it's the best decision I could have made, honestly.
Sorry about that. Go ahead, Aries.
No problem. So for me, it was kind of the same type of deal. When I was at Los Vedanos, my plan was to go to school in Southern California because that was like the only thing that it seemed like there was. And I didn't know about HBCUs until the very last minute. I saw a poster that it had like the HBCU tour thing, but I had missed the deadline. So I was like, okay, well, there's got to be some way. And I'm hearing like a lot of my friends talking about HBCUs. I'm like, what about it? Like, what is it? What's the lure? And so once I started to learn that I wanted to be in that type of environment, I wanted that experience, I was like, okay, I have to apply. And I also learned from my counselors that there are these agreements with tons and tons of HBCUs, where if you do everything you need to do, you can get in with no problem. So that's how I changed my whole trajectory at the last minute. My parents were kind of like, but it was the same thing. I was like, no, this is my chance to see something else. I've been in California all my life. I've never even been on a plane before. So this is my chance. And Southern caught my eye just because, well, my counselor went to Southern. So she was like, oh, you want to go to an HBCU? Well, let me tell you about the Southern University. And so from there, I kind of just was like, I think this feels like the right decision. And when I got to Southern, I was immediately like, this is where I need to be. And it felt like home. So it was a huge leap of faith, but the best decision. Like, I feel like we all feel like it's one of the best decisions we could have ever made. So I love it.
Thank you all. What kind of student were you? Describe yourself, academically, socially. What type of student were you?
I think because I already answered this, I'll pass it to Jesus to answer the first question.
Thank you.
Wait, so do you want me to answer the first one or the one you just asked? First one, you got it. So I had a very interesting interaction. So I mean, being biracial and being in California, right? I've only really ever knew my Hispanic side, and I never really delved into the culture of being African American. So initially, I went to community college. I had no idea what HBCUs were. I mean, when you're in California, it's kind of like its own ecosystem of, going to UCs or CSUs. And so when time came around for me to apply to my 4-year, I only applied to UCs and CSUs at first. And I got into a majority of all the ones I applied to, like Berkeley, Sacramento State, UC San Diego, Santa Barbara, all of those. And it wasn't until I went on a conference trip to LA with A2Men, which is a statewide organization, that I was, introduced to the HBCUs in general. And I had met the university president as well as the vice president at the time of Fisk University. And I handed him my transcript, and I was like, I'm going to Berkeley, but by all means, have a look at it. And he was like, wait a minute. And it was just so interesting because you don't really see university presidents or vice presidents at college fairs, and so you really have to pay attention to that because they're having their top level administrators doing being at the college fairs and whatnot. And so that's something that stood out to me first off. And then they offered me a presidential scholarship, which is essentially like a full ride. And I was like, wait a minute, I thought you could only get these if you're an athlete, right? And so that's one thing. That's another thing that stood out to me. And so I kind of began to look into HBCUs a little bit more. And I was like, well, you know what? Fisk University is the alum of John Lewis, who is personally for me like my hero, right? Like that's my guy. Rest in peace, John Lewis, absolute legend. And so, learning more about the culture and history at Fisk University, I was like, I can go to Berkeley, I can go to UC Santa Barbara, UC San Diego on the Blue and Ride scholarship, Fisk University, and be a part of history. And that was something that really stood out to me because when you go to an HBCU, you're not just a number, right? The administrators, they know your name. All of the counselors, they know your name. You're not just, hey, what's your student ID number again? You're not one of those individuals. And so for me, going to Fisk was something that just felt right. I'm also very passionate about social justice and social equity. And, I couldn't think of a better place to go than Fisk. So that's how I chose my HBCU.
Thank you. Sorry. So the next question, what type of student were you all? Could you describe what type of student you are or were?
Yeah, so like I said before, I definitely was very involved on campus and very involved off campus. I lived my life. I lived in Atlanta, so I took the most out of the opportunity to live there and really experience a new city.
Tony, go ahead. Talk to us, you're on mute. Okay, for now, we'll go ahead to the next one. Abdi, go ahead. Describe what kind of student you've been.
Yeah, when I first started college, I was kind of, I wasn't ready for it. I'm not gonna lie. I had been smart in high school, and I thought it was pretty much the same. Dancing and organization wasn't really a thing for me. And then college hits you, and you have to be organized. So it took a transition period for me as a first generation student. But once I really started using Google Calendar and taking the time to prepare for my semester, it made life so much more easier. And since then, I haven't really looked back. Been on Dean's List multiple semesters, and yeah, after that, once especially now as a student athlete, not having a lot of time outside of practice and traveling and stuff, you really have to do well with your time management. I feel like all you guys did as well with activities you guys have going on with extracurriculars and stuff. So that's the type of student I am.
So for me, I know for a fact, it's pretty interesting because in high school, the push was to just go straight to a 4 year. Like I went to Deer Valley High School in Antioch, so that was the culture. It was like, oh, you're not going to UC Berkeley, you're not going to San Diego State. Why are you going to LMC? That's like Deer Valley. And I'm like, I'm saving money, and I'm just like, I knew I wasn't ready to go away. So having those 2 years to prepare and develop really good study habits and time management between work and school and just like family life and stuff really did help me for when I went to Southern because I had it down. And even though I wasn't working at Southern, I was trying to get used to everything. It really helped me to time manage. Like when I didn't have class, I was studying and I was making sure to do everything like as much as I could during the week so that on the weekends and when there were like special events, I would be like, oh yeah, of course I'm going, like, because I really wanted to be involved and like experience all those things that my friends who had already been there, like, oh, you have to experience Pretty Wednesday, you have to experience this and that. And I'm like, okay, well, my work is done. So for me, my priority was always having work done first so that I could actually enjoy and not look back and be like, oh man, I didn't get to do anything. So yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think the type of student I was, I mean, growing up, coming from a low economic background as well as being like a first generation college student, I definitely wanted to get it right. So I went to community college first, and I was like, you know what, I can't screw this up. I literally cannot afford to screw this up. And so, I kind of took like initially I took like a backseat role just trying to get my stuff in order because I mean all of this was so new. And so my 2 years at my community college was absolutely phenomenal because they instill with you like some of the most basic things that I think high schools kind of fail to do, which is like study habits, making sure you're good at organizing things, time management. On top of that, mental health management as well, which is I think is something very big nowadays that should have been back then, but I'm glad it is now. But I was a student that was like, what, I need to get my grades up there. I need to make sure that I am, not disqualifying myself from anything possible. So, I did a lot of organizations. I was a president of a few organizations, the HMN charter that was on my campus. I was president of, and it showed because that's how I got my full ride to FISC, right? So I think I've always been kind of like that scholarly academic type. But then when I went to FISC, I was like, you know what? I have 2 years to really explore this HBCU culture. So I went in, full ride. The first semester I was there, ran for student government and council senator for my class. I got that. And then I also reinstituted the NAACP on FISC's campus and was the president of that. And then, just being involved as much as possible, doing as many internships as possible. One thing that was told to me at a very young time while I was at FISC is like, hey, look, you're a person of color. At no point in time are people going to really want to help you and work with you other than now when you're a student. And I can't exemplify that enough. People want to help people of color, especially when you're a student. But outside of that, you really don't get that option as much. So that's something that was really grilled into me, and that's something that I've taken full advantage of. I also joined a fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. I had fun in that. I also did Student Government Association. I was the Chief Justice of that.
So I kind of was all over the place, but I think the main thing is to make the experience what you want to make it. But on top of that, be mindful of the fact that you're a student first. There's a reason why you're going to college, and you need to make sure you prioritize that. You can do anything that you want to do while you're at the university that you end up going to, but it's a matter of time management, right? Having self-discipline. I promise you this: you can be that 4.0 student, get on honors roll and do all that, but then on the weekends, you can have your own fun at the same time. But that was the kind of student I was.
Thank you. I feel like that shows kind of the range of involvement, but also the underlying theme here is balance. So balancing student life, academics, but also that social engagement. I know Tony's been having a little tech issues. Okay, we hear you now. We hear you.
Yes,
So
I'm
can you
so sorry,
describe her
guys.
as, it's okay, life happens. What type of student are/were you?
In undergrad, I definitely started off as, the first semester was definitely like a smooth transaction. I more so like was an observer. I wanted to get to know my campus and get to know the ins and out of the campus. So my first semester, I really didn't do much. All I did was just class. But once I got the feel of the semester, all my friends and meeting everyone, it was just like it was time for me to get into action. So then from there, I just was the busy. I went from doing nothing to doing everything, literally, in just a semester. And from that point, from joining the mock trial team, different LSAT situations that I had to go through. I was along the pre-law program the entire time. Being at the Supreme Court, it was just like being a resident assistant. I was like always doing something. So I just kept myself busy to keep, from thinking about home and things like that. I wasn't even thinking about home, to be honest. Like they had to call me and tell me to come back. Like I was enjoying it. It was like a different lifestyle. I was active. I would use active, super active.
Would you say that compares to how you were in community college? Were you as active and engaged?
In community college, it was more so me just trying to do like when I was in community college, it was more so just doing classes. I wasn't active in anything actually. It was just go to class and go to work. It wasn't really anything like how I was at the HBCU.
Thank you. Let's see. We've kind of been alluding to this, so in a little bit more detail, tell us a bit more about campus life and your transition into the HBCU community. What was that transition like?
So I think are you asking comparing to our community college and our HBCU? So I was a commuter student 100%. I was not invested in my community college as much as I should have been. And I think the semester or the year that I care and really be present, because I was switching majors, I was working full jobs. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to be a chef, y'all. So things have changed. So I realized, okay, I like to talk. I like to travel. Who's going to pick me to talk and travel? So I changed my major to communications. And once I got that grounding and that footing, and then decided to plug into my Emoja community and plug into the counselors that are sitting, waiting for someone to come into their office and ask for help, and leveraging those resources, I had a 180 and I decided the kind of student that I wanted to be. I was really maybe like a BC student all throughout my life. And I was like, you know what? I don't get B's. I don't get C's, I get A's. So making that decision and then acting accordingly really changed a lot of stuff for me. And when I decided to go to Clark Atlanta, I changed my routine. So I used to work really late and then kind of wake up at 11. I started waking up at 7 every single day because I'm a student. I'm not going to be classes that are catered to my schedule. So some discipline before I got there, and I was like, I'm going to graduate with a job, and I just made sure all my actions were according to that. So as soon as I got into that office with my dean, I was like, hey, so I want to graduate in 2 years. These are my credits. What do I need to do so we can work together to make this happen? So I think going in with that plan and thinking of college as not only an experience and not only a way to further your education, but as a business, it really prepares you for whatever they say the real world is, because it's constantly learning and reiterating. So that's a little bit about how I prepared and then how I decided to be when I got to CAU.
For me, it was more so when I was in community college, I was just doing classes. I think I did a summer semester and I did a fall. Then I went on the trip in the spring, and literally there, I didn't wait and do the 2 year AA because for me, I didn't see a need. I was like, you know what, now is the time. With the credits I had, I think I transferred with 28 credits. That's and with my class still. So when I literally went all semesters, and I even did summer to catch up because I was making graduate that I wanted to graduate with. So I did put in a lot of work. But for me, it was so easy in Louisiana than it was in Cali. Like, you know, I went to Dillard 3.8, so it was like I was just able to do my work, and that's really all I had to focus on. I wasn't working at the time. I was in all the activities that I was doing in different other organizations, but I didn't have a job at the time, so it was more so me just focusing on school. That's all I had to worry about. Back home, it was like I had other responsibilities, a lot of other things going on, but when I got to college, I was free. It was like I was able to really do me and excel at what I wanted to do. So that's kind of how my happened and things like that.
Question for me?
Sure. The question is, tell us about campus life and your transition into the HBCU community.
I would say my campus back in San Diego, I went to the smallest school of the JUCO. There's like, I'm pretty sure like anybody that comes from a big city, like 3 or 4. But I went to the smallest one because for me, when I left San Diego State, my state of mind was I want to isolate. I want to figure myself out. I want to figure out what I want to do. So I purposely went to the one that I knew not a soul at. And if I wasn't at practice, I was literally in the library. And that's really when things started to switch for me and I got my priorities straight. So I was a commuter student as well, so I wasn't really active on campus, but I really didn't see much. You'd see a couple tables and stands and stuff, but it was mostly a commuter school. And then I get to Alabama State, and obviously we had to disband in March because of the coronavirus. But during the fall, there's events, there's organizations, literally from A to Z, whatever you're involved in, whether it's Greek life, whether it's academic clubs, whether it's sports clubs. It's literally it's so much. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. You have to realize and not spread yourself a little bit too thin. Like pick a couple. There's activities going on, and then I'm pretty sure it's the same for all you guys. But football season, the band, the tailgating, it's amazing, and I can't explain it. Like I'm not doing it justice by explaining it. You guys have to come and see it for yourself.
That's so true. So for me, it was like a lot of what everyone has talked about. When I went to Los Bodanos, I was just worried about getting out in 2 years. So going to class, going to work, going home, studying, getting ready for class. Like I wasn't involved at all. And so that was kind of like my mindset when I came to Southern. But everyone was always like, well, you should do this. You should get interested in this. And it kind of took me a while to like open up because I'm such a quiet person and I had to break out of that shell because throughout college I did start breaking out of my shell, but it took me a semester or two to kind of finally be like, okay, explore. So when I did get to Southern, I was very homesick. I was just like, wow, I'm really like out here all alone. But I made friends really fast, so that wasn't an issue. But it was just getting used to the new culture and the people and just the environment. It was amazing. It just took me some getting used to. And something that I really enjoyed that I look back on now is that like the classes at LMC were pretty small and the teachers were really, really available and always there when you needed them. And it was the same type of thing at Southern, which I really appreciated because I'd always heard about, oh, when you go to university, like the classes are so big. And like I had some friends that went to LSU and like they would take attendance by clicking a button and like they wouldn't even, have their name. But for me, I remember I missed one class and my teacher was like, where were you? We didn't have you to read out loud. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, so they really do know you and they look out for you. And so everyone looks out for each other. But yeah, it took me a minute to get used to everything. But once I was there, I was like, oh yeah, this is home. So.
Yeah, no, my transition was very interesting. So when I was at community college, you know, like I said initially, first generation college student coming from a low economic background, I was like, I can't mess this up. So when I tell you I was crossing the dots and teeing the T's, I mean, on top of all of my academics, that came first, hands down. But then as I was progressing, I realized I was like, you know what, if I want to get into a really good university, like, so just to kind of preface that frame of thought, everyone, so in my small town, the community college that we had, everyone had this assumption that like, if you go to a community college, you're going to get stuck, you're going to become a nobody, you're not going to do anything with your life. And that really made me upset because it's kind of like you're looking at the underdog in life. And being a person of color, I feel like that's how we're generally looked at. And so going into my community college, I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to prove every single person wrong. You know what I mean? Especially being a male of color, I'm not going to fall into those stereotypes. And so, you know, from dusk till dawn, I was, you know, studying. If I wasn't studying, I did do 2 part-time jobs. So I was working those. And I was just, you know, on top of my stuff. Now, when I transferred to Fisk, which is in Nashville, might I add, so from California to Nashville, completely 2 different cultures, 2 different dichotomies coming from the West Coast to the South. And I joke around about this because the first time I got off the plane in Nashville, I literally felt like I was in an old 60s movie because it was literally like black and white. And coming, like, if you've ever been in LAX, like you have the whole world in that airport, right? And then when you're in BNA, which is Nashville's airport, it's literally black and white. And I was like, what type of old movie did I just get into? But anyways, I'm pretty sure a lot of all y'all can a piece of this is the fact that like HBCUs are very welcoming, very open. The very first time I went, like everyone just felt like family. Like I can't express that enough. Like when I went to the cashier's office, so they could tell that I was nervous. And she was like, "Oh, sweetheart, what's going on? Do you need help with your need help with your account?" I was like, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am." Because like I didn't know anybody in Tennessee. I mean, I've never lived outside of California before. And I can just suggest or add to the fact that, you know, going to an HBCU, you're looked at as an individual, as your own individual, and you're surrounded by people that look just like you. And I can definitely attest to the fact that they've seen it all, right? So they're not going to hide anything. They're not going to, you know, beat around the bush around it. They're going to get straight to the point with things. And so obviously, initially, you're going to have that level of homesickness because you're in a new environment, which is completely natural. But I promise you this, that like, as long as you apply yourself and you do your part to kind of get out there and make friends and stuff, they're going to be there. They're going to welcome you open arms. And just one small thing too that I was initially worried about is, you know, being biracial, going to an HBCU community. I was like, you know what, they're going to look at me a little different, or I'm going to be casted out as the brown sheep. But that was not the case at all. It was an overall unbelievable experience that I'm grateful for. But I promise you, like going to an HBCU, you'll definitely be welcomed as family.
Can I add one thing to that?
And Aaron, can I add one thing to that?
I just want to say California is not going anywhere to our students. Like even if you come and it doesn't work out and like you really miss home, California is not going anywhere. Or more than likely what will happen is once you leave, you'll realize, wow, the possibilities are endless and you won't want to go to California on your own. So like everybody said, it's a family at whichever, obviously I want you to come to Alabama State, but whichever HBCU that you choose, you'll make a great decision.
There we go. Yes. I know those are words that my mom gave to me. She's a Tuskegee alum. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, that's good for you. But I'm cool. But yeah, there's so much life and other opportunities, experiences, culture outside of California. And California's not going anywhere. You can always come back. You guys have touched on this a bit, but if you could in more detail, be specific about the types of, what types of activities were available and what did you participate in? And then how did you balance?
Yeah, there are a lot of activities available at AUC. So AUC is the Atlanta University Center, and that has Spelman College, Morehouse College, Morris Brown, and Clark Atlanta University. So if you wanted an opportunity, you could find it at each college or university. So if I wanted to be able to see Kamala Harris speak to the women at Spelman, I'm going to Spelman. if I wanted to take I took a business class at Morehouse. And I think just taking advantage of where you're planted is like the key to being successful at any HBCU or any college or any job, because change is constant. So you have to be adaptable. So in thinking about like my work and just like overall, like I guess the way I served my university while I was at Clark Atlanta, I was really passionate about reproductive justice and social justice issues. So I was like, how can I make this place a better place than when I left? And like my small contribution. So that's why I was really, really passionate about starting a chapter for Planned Parenthood, and more so educating my peers about consent and about reproductive health and about social justice issues and how they're all intertwined. And I think COVID has shown us that health and social justice and economics are all intertwined. So I think it's just really important to make sure that whatever you get involved in when you get to your university is additive to either your career, your spirit, your mind, your network. So just make sure you're planting those places. So there wasn't a networking event that I wasn't at. There wasn't an opportunity or a talk that I wasn't at. And if I wasn't there, I was working or another talk. So working with CAUTV and being a reporter, going to the lobby and going to the Capitol and lobbying in Georgia was very much a different experience. And having the opportunity to lobby Capitol Hill in DC was awesome. So I think it's just like planting yourself in places that may be unconventional. So I also went to and I was like, hey, so has anyone come? And that's kind of how I found out that Google was doing a presentation on campus. I just was asking questions and I was in everybody's face and I was like, hey, this is my resume. What can you do to help me? And how can I like earn your and earn your trust so that you want to invest in me? So I think that's kind of how I matriculated and was really involved in my own campus.
I couldn't agree more with some of the stuff you were saying. It just touched home. For me, there was endless opportunity for in my field. My field was law. I could tell you guys on the tour, I was like, because right before I went on the tour was like, let me figure out what I want to do. And it really sat with me that I wanted to be a lawyer. So on the tour was like, look into their law programs, see what their law is about. What is their courtroom? Do they have that? You know, so when I went there on the tour, I met someone who ended up being just an angel in my life. Like, she's the reason why I actually chose Dillard. She's the pre-law advisor and also like the first lady of the school. So we ended up connecting. And during that time, it was like from there, every event I was at, every single mock trial. I did mock trial all my years there, nationally ranked team. You know, we were doing endless things. I went to different states because of that. And I had never even been on a plane really to Philly, I'm going to Atlanta, I'm going to all these different places just based off of my performance, getting on a stage and just doing my thing with the mock trial. I was a part of the LEAD association. That basically is the Legal Education Advancing Diversity. So when you're trying to get into law school, there's like different programs you could be a part of, but this particular program just set me up and got me into law school with following the steps and trusting in the process, of course. I was a residential assistant. That just spoke to the spirit. It was like, I'm a people person. I like to talk. I like to meet new people. I didn't even know the school, but I was a residential assistant and I got to know the school and I became one of the best residential assistants there. It was just like those little things that I did, the Black Tide Association. I was like, music, like there was always something you can do. I did countless of things. So it was just like, whatever you needed to do to get your mind right, to get away from, you know, feeling like you miss your home, there was always something you could do. And like she said, going to all of the events I'm talking about, there's no reason why I was sitting in my room. There was no reason why I wasn't up doing anything. Like, it was just like always something to do. So my school definitely provided all those other resources and networking opportunities.
My path is a little bit different. Obviously, as a student athlete, the reason why I'm here is my track scholarship along with my academics. So that's like a part-time job in itself, honestly. And then my other goal, you know, I want to be a CEO of a hospital. So I kind of have my route. I knew I'm going to have to go to grad school. I know this is something that's going to, you know, require me to get a master's degree. So now it was identifying the schools I want to go to and what requirements they have, and, you know, making sure that I perform both academically, but also have enough stuff going on, not just stuff to sign up for, stuff that I'm interested in enough that when I get to my interviews, you know, I can speak passionately about. So for me, it wasn't during the school year. Obviously, I have too much going on. It was during the summers. That's when I was going to make my 2019, even before I got to Alabama State, I had an internship at the University of Iowa, Carver College of Medicine. Spent 6 weeks there. Never thought I'd be in Iowa. Great experience. It's one of the schools I'm applying to right now. And then obviously this year with COVID, I had another one that was specific to healthcare management called the Summer Enrichment Program at the University of Michigan. And it had to be virtual. Unfortunately, I couldn't go to Ann Arbor because of COVID. But I really learned a lot. And because of that, and because I was able to network with that, they gave me an opportunity to be a part of a boot camp that they held during this fall. And throughout the whole boot camp, they helped me with the whole graduate program application. So my essays, my interview skills, all the things that I just went through right now, this entire fall, I was a part of that. And that was because of my involvement in internships. And that's another thing that I would tell you guys. Do an internship or an externship or volunteer, because even if you know what you want to do, try it. It gives you either one of two things: conviction, and it vindicates why you want to do it. And then that gives you more passion to go through. And when school gets hard and gets tough, you know your reason is stronger than, just going through the books. And if not, it tells you, hey, maybe this is not for me. Maybe I should, try something else, But the last thing you want to do is get to the end of graduation and you start your career. And that's the first time you ever did real experience at something. And you're like, hey, maybe this is not for me. And now you're having withdrawals, So either way, it's either going to propel you to go forward, or it's going to propel you to take a step back and really look at something else and some other avenues. So that's why I would recommend that you guys do internships.
So when it comes to my experience, I think it's really interesting because it's kind of built into my curriculum as a psychology major at Southern University. And I say this because before going to Southern University, I knew that, okay, I wanted to go to an HBCU for the environment, the experience, the uniqueness of just what it's like to be around your own people, but also because I was looking for basically like an African-centered curriculum that taught more than just African-American history when, because in high school, we learned just a little tiny bit, and it's like, okay, so now back to the history of America, all the great things and so I was really, really pursuing that. And I feel very lucky and very happy that the curriculum of the psychology department at Southern University is under Dr. Reginald Rackley, because he teaches two really great classes. The first is African American experience, and the second is the psychology of the African American child. And so, especially for the African American child class, it was an amazing opportunity, because built into that class were these visits where we would go to alternative schools with children, very young children, as young as 5 years old, that are kicked out of their schools because, in essence, the teachers don't know how to deal with them. They say they're rowdy, they say they have different disorders and things like that. When, we learn in the class that no, it's two different paradigms, in different households, things are different. But in general, in school, if you're not quiet, if you don't raise your hand, teachers don't know how to deal with you. So under that, umbrella, we were able to go visit the schools and learn a little bit more about the children, as well as in class learning about just a lot of different history, inventions, contributions from African American individuals that you would never even think, is true. You're like, wait, so giving birth laying down is not actually the way you're supposed to, just like stuff like that is African-centered was exactly what I came to Southern for. And it's like, I had that idea in my mind. I'm like, I know there's more history, Black history, that I'm missing out on. I just didn't know what it was because, I'd never seen it anywhere. So when I went to Southern, being in that psychology department, having that opportunity to go visit those children, go to the schools, and get so much more than just, okay, reading the textbook, doing the test, was invaluable to me. And it really showed me, okay, like there's a lot more to my major than I even knew in the first place. So having that was really special. And also another part of that was being a psychology major, being in Dr. Rackley's classes all the time. You get really familiar with your teachers and close. And so in that, he was able to push me because, like I said earlier, I had to get out of my shell. It took me a minute. But because of him, I was already in the psychology club because I was like, okay, I love psychology, so I'm going to be in the club. But he actually pushed me to join Psychi. So, in getting close to him and in essence networking and, my other classmates being like, well, you have a really good GPA. You should do it. Just getting that like extra push that you need really served me well. So having just the special like care of the psychology department at Southern University was like one of the biggest highlights of my experience when it comes to networking and expanding your horizons and doing things you would have never thought you could have done before.
So I guess for me, I'll break mine up into two different sections. So in terms of on campus and then off campus. So on campus, what's very interesting is, you know, when you're in an HBCU community, you know, if they don't have something that you're looking for, as long as you have the passion and you're very persistent, they'll create something for you. And you'll be a part of that creating, which, you know, translates to so many additional skills on your part. So, I mean, for me, like I knew right from the get-go, I was very involved with, you know, or I had a very big interest in politics and social justice. So, I mean, obviously anything that I could get my hands on that had to do with law or politics or policy or anything within that realm, I was on top of that. I think the main thing is just being very vocal about it. That's one thing that my HBCU taught me. I'm pretty sure it's the same with others. Is they're very good at promoting and instilling within you this idea of, okay, you need to brand yourself. What is your brand? What is your thing? When you're having a conversation with somebody, what is your main end goal? What are you trying to convey to these people? I've noticed a lot of recruiters, whether it be for a grad school or just for job opportunities, they want to know about you. What makes you unique? What makes you you? And that's where you have the opportunity to really just lay into them. Okay, well, I'm gonna tell you X, Y, and Z and ZBC. You know what I mean? And so on campus, I mean, I had plenty of opportunities, a lot of activities. Like I said, I was a part of a fraternity. I did the Student Government Association. I had, you know, I was involved with the NAACP, different things like that. One thing that I want to note within that is like, even if you go to a small HBCU, right, the opportunities are endless. As crazy as it may sound, HBCUs, they're really old. I promise you, they have some really good connections and a lot of networking opportunity events. So take advantage of those as much as possible. So in terms of off campus, I did an internship every single semester that I was there. The very first semester I was there, you know, coming straight out of community college, I was like, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do anything like that. But again, just a testament to the networking that, you know, HBCUs have. The first semester I was there, I talked to the vice president. I was like, hey, look, I need some type of internship with the government, whether it's state, federal, local, I don't care. Just get me something. And that first semester, within the next few weeks, I was interning at the mayor's office, so the national mayor's office. I did that for 2 semesters, and then that summer, I did an internship with the #1 law firm in the United States, which is Cravath, Swin and Moore. They had just a brand new program, and because of, you know, the fact that I was involved on campus and, you know, I was sticking true to a lot of my my intentional in terms of education and stuff like that, they recommended me to be a part of that, you know, and being a part of that programming in New York City, having everything paid for, you know, you're surrounded by people that don't look like you, that don't have the same experiences as you, but you are more than equitable in terms of your value in those places. And it's something that you should be proud of, and something that's very significant, because, you know, we're not used to being in those spaces, but that my HBCU elevated me to that position, right? So yeah, and then the last semester I was there, that got cut short because of COVID, but I was doing an internship with the Tennessee State Legislature as a representative legislation intern. So I mean, on campus, did a lot of things in terms of social life as well as within the administrative aspects of the campus. But then off campus, you know, the opportunities for internships is, you know, it's incredible. People want to get you from HBCUs, you know what I mean? I think one thing that I definitely took from that is, like, you know, my color, the color of my skin, for not only myself, but for my ancestors, has always been a thing where, you know, you weren't given an opportunity. But the beauty of living in the day and age that we are right now is they're looking at you specifically because of your color. So take advantage of that. But not only take advantage of that, but then prove to them the fact that, you know what, I can do everything you can do, and I can probably do it better. And so that's kind of like the mentality that I took into it. And that's something that, you know, I would definitely recommend to anybody else. So yeah.
Thank you all. I just want to highlight a couple of great key things that, you know, we've kind of gotten from the panelists just from that one question. To be strategic and intentional about your involvement on campus, and you're not just there for the academic part. Like that is a huge part. It's a stepping stone, but that's not it. Don't limit yourself to just class. To take advantage of the opportunities that are presented to you, that are available to you, because ultimately you are the driving force. You are the advocate of your experience. So as we heard, closed mouths don't get fed. These things were not just placed into the hands. These opportunities weren't just presented to them. They were there, front and center, engaged, locked in. So one of our last kind of official questions before we get to Q&A, because we have some really robust questions there. What advice and recommendations would you give to prospective students?
Just really quickly. So at Google, I'm a part of the campus advocacy program. So we, every fall, do sessions, educational sessions at different universities and colleges. And I had the opportunity to be placed with a certain HBCU. And I cannot reiterate, and I totally empathize. I don't understand, but I empathize with what it's like to go through a whole day of being in front of a screen and do something else that's virtual. But please show up to these events, because these corporations are looking for diverse talent, and we know what diverse means. So please show up to these events, because there are 5 to 6 people that have worked a long workday that want to give you the opportunity and are advocating for you internally to get these opportunities. So show up. Even if you're tired, just show up and humor us with a question. Second thing, don't be married to your major. It's tired. Do not be married to your major. I have switched majors and I've worked multiple jobs, and I'm not doing anything that I thought I was going to be doing. And sometimes what you end up doing is better and bigger and kind of encaptured like all the different experiences that you've had. So don't just be like, I'm a communications major, that's all I do. Have a focus, but keep your eyes open to everything that's around you, because your network and the people that you're rubbing up against could be not your boss, but who you're working alongside or who you're competing with. So don't be married to your major. Gratitude is free and always appreciated. So share your accomplishments with the people that have deposited into you, no matter how big or small. I tell Erin all the time, whenever something great happens at work, because she's been so instrumental into my college journey and my career, my professional journey. So just always remember the people from your JC, your undergrad experience, and the people in your family or your neighborhood that have supported you. They'll be shocked that you remember to say thank you. And get your affairs in order. Lastly, there is no fun without funds. So you need to get your financial aid together before the first day of school. You will not have a good time. You will not have a good time if you're sitting in the financial aid office, virtually or in person, trying to figure it out last minute. Get it together as soon as you can. I'm not saying I did not come from a family that was going to pay my way through college. I know they would if they could. I made sure I signed up for scholarships. I advocated for myself in the office. Make sure that you are aware of how long your time is in community college and how that affects and impacts your funds that are available when you get to your 4-year college, because it's not just a fountain of funds. So make sure that you're strategic in that way too, because college is an experience. It is also a business. So make sure that you're funding your HBCUs when you graduate too. That's all.
Amen. Amen. I wrote down 4 things just off the top of my head to give to students who may be thinking about it, who are on the edge. First one is, don't be scared to go live. I mean, I feel like it speaks for itself, but if you're sitting there thinking about it and you're like, man, no, just go, because when I tell you, it'll be the best thing you did. Even if you get out there and you still don't like it, I tell you, you're still going to take something from it. It's going to be a lesson still. You know what I mean? So definitely take advantage and go live. When you get there, take advantage of everything. When I say everything, I mean everything. Like if they have a how to build your credit, you be at that. They have and it, like she said, it doesn't have to be about your major, because anything can open doors. Anything, just walking, stumbling in the room at the right place at the right time at an HBCU can be your, it can take you there. It's happened. You know what I mean? So when you get there, definitely take advantage of everything. Don't think it's off limits. It's there. They want to help you. And that's why it's an HBCU. Like they're specialized in helping people like you. Like it just makes sense. And then I just say give back. Like when you going through these type of things, I am committed to getting more people to HBCUs. I am committed to the cause because of how much it's changed me, how much I've done excelled. So it's like, give back to your community, to your people, and share the experience. If you're going through it, then tell a friend about it. It's really definitely necessary. We need more. All right, and that's what I got for y'all.
I kind of spoke on mine and used my shine a little bit, but it's not going anywhere. You look at Black graduates from PWIs and you look at Black graduates from HBCUs. Black graduates from HBCUs are way better on a trajectory, and there's statistics, there's data, there's evidence to prove this. And we've kind of had, everybody was talking about it when you're going through high school. Obviously, you guys are going through the transfer agreement program in Emoji at your school, but what we're used to is the CSUs, UC Berkeley, Stanford, this, that. And we're not telling you that's not a great option, but we're just telling you, think about life from a perspective where for the first time in your life, you're a part of the majority. That is a great feeling. Everybody deserves to feel that at least for a semester. Like Tony said, like if it doesn't work out, you can still come back and it'll still be a lesson. But we know most likely it's going to work for you. So we just want to get you from California to an HBCU. That's my biggest piece of advice.
So true. So for me, I have 4 things. I'm trying to be fast. The first is to always be your biggest advocate. Um, just make sure you stay on top of everything. Always follow up. Make sure that you're following up and making sure that business is handled, because sometimes things easily get lost in translation, and that only carries over into life after college. I will say that this was like supposed to be my last point, but it's important enough that HBCUs truly do prepare you for life after college. I have a younger brother who's at LMC right now, and he's like, "Oh, they didn't call me back," and he's talking about one of the departments, and I'm like, "Well, you have to call. You have to be that person to stand up for yourself, because no one does that for you. That's your responsibility as an adult." So HBCUs will show you that, and you have to take that and appreciate it. When you're in it, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, but once you learn from it, you can really, really appreciate that and be very thankful that you learned it so early on, because some people, they don't get that experience, but when you go to an HBCU, you get that experience. It's built in. And the second thing, or the third thing, is to not be intimidated by opportunities that present themselves. A lot of times I would find myself being like, well, can I do it? Is it possible? It's good to be realistic, but when you're at an HBCU, you have to realize that anything is possible and things will work out. Even if it seems like it's a lot and there's not enough time or anything like that, take advantage, because, like we've all been saying, you never know what can happen. You meet the right person, you're in the right area, it's the right time of day, and now here you are on a plane somewhere that you've never even thought you'd be going. So don't be intimidated. And last but not least, trust yourself. You know yourself better than anyone else. Trust the decisions that you make. And, if you do end up doing something or taking a chance and you don't feel like it's right, you can always start back, at square one. But it's better to take that chance and take that risk and be like, okay, well, at least I tried. And that's how I feel about going to Southern, because, for the longest time, this wasn't even in my plans. But once I did it, I was like, this is the best thing I've ever done. And I say that every single time I talk about Southern, because it was a huge, huge decision to go so far from home. But, when I was in it, I felt the same way. But now graduated, I feel even stronger about the fact that, like, I trusted myself, and I knew I made the right decision, but I just had to go through it and learn and grow. And now I know for sure, like, just go for it. If you feel like this is right, go for it.
Yeah, my fellow pastors, y'all were speaking the God's word right there. Y'all were preaching in your own right. Amen to that. For me, the advice that I would have for you guys, first and foremost, is learn how to become comfortable with just yourself. What I mean by that is learn that it's okay to be by yourself. Within that, it's a matter of realizing, what, I'm my own unique individual. Stop comparing yourself to what you think you should be doing, and just focus on what you want to do. I think especially within this very tech-savvy social media world, we tend to look up on Instagram or on Facebook, TikTok, and you see people on there and they're doing this, they're doing that, and then you start comparing yourself to them, and you kind of get down on yourself. You start to demoralize your own passion, your own fire. first and foremost, I think is that matter of becoming comfortable with who you are and realize your limits. The second thing is to prioritize yourself. Be selfish with your time. As young as we all are, and as young as you guys are all, it's necessary that you're selfish with your time. People are going to be asking for your time. So it's a matter of realizing, okay, you know what? This is what I want to do. I know you guys are hanging out this weekend. Probably not because it's COVID, hopefully not. But you know what? I'm going to focus on myself. Take time for professional development. Take time to do things for myself. Treat yourself. Especially nowadays, I think mental health is a big thing, and we need to be appreciative and mindful of that. And then the last thing is to seek the opportunity in everything. There's opportunity in every conversation, in every interaction. If you have homework, right, but they're having some type of seminar online, go to the seminar. That homework will still be there when that seminar is done. If there's a networking opportunity, even if you've been to the exact same network opportunity, or if you know that it's like in, a tech specific thing, but you're over here studying liberal media or something like that, or liberal arts, still go to it. There's opportunity in having those connections, having an awareness of these people that are surrounding you. And I can't express that enough. There's opportunity in everything. It's just a matter of your perception to see that opportunity. You may not need that connection now, but you know what, 10, 15 years down the line, you're trying to do your own business. How do I do media design? How do I do that? I wish I would have went to that tech seminar. So just seek the opportunity in everything. So yeah.
Thank you. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the chat, but everyone is singing you all's praises and words of encouragement, advice, and so we have 28 minutes to the T before we are done with this session, and we have some really awesome questions from our Q&A. So not everyone has to answer, but if you feel so led, go right ahead. What was it like emotionally and physically to transition from home to a new location? Culture shock or homesickness, etc. What was it like? And I'm going to add on, how did you overcome it? How did you get through it?
Okay, so really, okay.
You want to go ahead?
This is just like the power of video chat. So really quickly, I moved to Atlanta and I was a vegan. I left and I eat meat, but that's the surface level of it all. I think I just had like a very insular view of the world, and I was like, this is the right thing to do. Why can't people just eat healthy? Why people can't just do this? And I think when you're exposed to the diversity of Blackness and the diversity of people from different cities, and you're exposed to how people think differently, that was definitely an adjustment. And I can't stress this enough. I know I said this already, but change is constant, and the more flexible and the more open you are to change, the better off you'll be. And living in Atlanta for 2 was a big experience. And I realized, okay, the kind of person I am, this kind of person I'm not. So I think that's kind of the best way to answer that. Just figuring out who you want to be and anchoring yourself. And as you said, you don't always have to have a pack of people with you. You can always be by yourself and figure it out.
For me, the transition wasn't as smooth. Because for me, it was my first time on a plane. I was just being in California and taking myself out of that environment and going to the South. Y'all, it was different. It was real different. The water was messing with my face. I felt like it was just a lot going on. And I went to New Orleans at that. So it was 15 minutes from Bourbon. It's just, everybody's so Southern, the accents was popping off. Everything was just real different. Okay, and then going to the school that I went to at first, it was okay, I have to find my way, because I did transfer in the spring. I failed to mention that. I did in the spring, so it was way different than transferring in the fall. So it was I had to jump right in and just, find my way in a sense. It wasn't as smooth, but once I got to know myself and once I got to know surroundings and how to, fit in, it was green light from there. But it definitely was very different for me. Very different.
Thank you. So this next question, if you guys could just type it in the chat, that would be great, because it's a really quick one. Where is it? Name one skill you developed at your HBCU that has helped you succeed. So if you could go ahead and put that in the chat for us. What was the greatest benefit to moving out of California?
I'm just kidding.
Oh,
Oh,
so we stumped our panelists, but this one kind of got you there a little bit. So I'll repeat it one more time. What was the greatest benefit to moving out of California?
I think, because this is kind of like a part of the other question, but I learned that Southern hospitality is very real. And so I got to kind of adopt a little bit of that and just appreciate it because like when I first got to Southern, it was like everyone was like, "Hey, how are you? You need help?" And I'm like, all these people are talking to me like they know me. That's kind of like weird, but it was just completely normal. And so I had to adjust and be like, okay, well, when I see people, if it's like a group of people and I only know one person, I should still say hello, even though I don't know them. Like, and people probably thought I was like rude because that was just not I was not accustomed to doing that until I was there and I picked up on it. So I really love that part about the South. And not that the people out here are mean, but I just feel like we're so focused on what we're doing and just moving along and that like that more relaxed lifestyle. And Southern hospitality was a huge takeaway. I really missed that. And I think that's a huge plus about being in the South because a part of the transition was like the humidity and the rain, and Baton Rouge, it rained so much. And so, but yeah, I really love just the feel. Everything feels really, the people are amazing. And they're really.
Yeah, I guess I'll just add to that too. I mean, for me personally, just getting a new worldview. I think California is very much an isolated state. I mean, we're connected, obviously, but you know, we're in our own bubble. There's, you know, idea of me, I in California, right? Because everything's there. Going and being a part of a different culture, being in a different part of the country, you're exposed to different perspectives, different views, which I think is very, very important. Because I mean, as diverse as California is, you know, there's a lot of the same mentality that's going on in California. Once you expose yourself to different mentalities, you really open your mindset and your point of view, and you really get to take advantage of the fact that you live in one of the most diverse countries in the world. So that's my biggest takeaway.
I think the thing for me is representation, and obviously growing up in California, it's diverse, but you don't see the sheer like just seeing so much successful Black people the way you do in the South, and now you start to believe it. You see the surroundings, and it just uplifts you. It feels good. You see it in California, but not to the degree that you see it in the South. Like you walk to Atlanta or you go to Birmingham or any capital city in the South, and you see everybody in suits, and that's not something I grew up in San Diego. There's not even a lot of Black people to begin with. Some of my friends visit, and they're like, "Where are the Black people in San Diego? You're going to downtown. That's not where Black people live." But in the South, everyone is like really successful, it seems like, or even if they're not, they look the part, and that just does something for you. So that's probably one of the best things, and most small minor things that play a role in your psychology.
Thank you guys. And if you guys didn't see, they did put their one skill that if they had to choose one, learned from their HBCU or while at the HBCU. This next question is kind of financial funding related. How did you navigate the change from the low cost of community college to the higher cost of your HBCU? And I'm going to add on to that. Is there anything that you would do differently when it comes to your funding process?
I think choosing to go to CAU was very specific because I looked at how much debt I would be in afterwards. And I was like, will I be making that salary in going to this college? So thinking about that in that way, like, okay, if I'm investing, say, $50K overall, am I going to be like majoring in a major that's going to help me make that? Or am I going to be placing myself with opportunities, or are there going to be enough opportunities for me to make that investment? So you see a return on your investment. So you want to make sure that when you're making these decisions to transfer, it's not really just about, and I don't think that that's like a good way to say it's not about the money. I think it's about the investment and the return on investment. So if you decide, hey, I want to spend 100K on my education, and I anticipate that my education and the connections that I'm making is going to make me 200K in the next like 5 to 10 years, then invest in yourself and you'll see it. Because like we invest in all these other things, but ourselves. So I think it's definitely worthwhile to think about when you're making that transition. It's not easy. I decided not to work my senior year, and I was working consistently since I was 17. So making that decision I graduated at 24 was really, really hard. And it was an ego hit because I really was like, I need to wait on these tables so I can make this money cash in hand. And making that sacrifice and working on campus instead made me more present and available for bigger opportunities that came later on.
Follow up, Belinda. Did you, because you mentioned basically like the student loan route, did you go in thinking, oh, I'm doing student loan, that's it? Or did you consider like scholarships and other options as well? Was that
all the scholarships I could. I applied for everything that I could. And then I also was looking at how much financial aid I would be awarded, either through a Parent Plus loan or another federal loan. And then my senior year, I had to take a private loan out because I had exhausted, because I didn't really think about it when I was taking all these random classes at LBCC, because I was just following my heart. I realized, okay, all those years of just kind of doing whatever is now catching up with me. I don't have enough financial aid to cover my housing. So I had to take out another loan, but I think just like going to that financial aid office or calling the financial aid office and saying like, hey, this is the situation, I apply this way, this is how much I'm guaranteed. Are there any other funds? Because you don't know until you ask. So you just gotta ask.
Thank you. Did anyone else want to add anything about the transition and the funding and the cost?
I'll go ahead and add something if no one else wants to. So, I mean, coming from like a low economic background, right? Money was always at the root of everything. That's kind of why I also did not go to a 4-year right out of high school, because I just simply could not afford it. The idea of all of those thousands of dollars going in debt and all I was receiving was this essentially like this physical piece of paper just did not make sense to me. But just being wise with your money. I realized that, you know, going to community college first, I didn't have to worry about like my housing situation or really even, you know, paying for food really, because I mean, you have your parents. And so, I mean, I recognize that I was privileged in that end, right? I did have a home. I did have, you know, parents to take care of me in that route. But that did not excuse me from, you know, spending things on ridiculous things. I worked 2 part-time jobs because I realized that although I'm not having to spend a lot of money on bills right now, I know that when I do go off, I will have to pay for a lot more things. So one thing that I did was I saved all the financial aid that I was receiving. I put that straight into a high interest savings account, which I definitely recommend for you guys. High interest yielding savings account. One of them that I use personally is called Marcus by Goldman Sachs. They have one of the highest interest rates that you get back for your money that you put in there. And then also just, you know, just being wise with your money. Don't go out and eat every other day. Go home. Take your butt home. You don't need to go to McDonald's. You don't need to go to Subway. You don't need to go eat out with your friends. Take your butt home. That's definitely something that I would recommend. And then also transferring over to Fisk. I mean, I did have a full ride, so I didn't have to worry about that. But in the back of my head, I still worked like I felt like, you know, I did have things to pay and I did have things to spend money on. So I think it's a matter of being mindful of that, but then also being aware of the fact that, you know, there's tons of scholarships. Like I can't express this enough. Scholarships as simple as, hey, submit your resume and that's it. And you can get a scholarship for $1,000. You know, tap into the local resources there, especially if you're in a bigger town or a bigger city. Every church, every nonprofit, they give out money every single year. It's just a matter of you typing in local scholarships for Nashville or Davidson County. If you're part of different organizations, every organization gives out some form of scholarship. What's very special about going to an HBCU is the fact that they have the UNCF, which is the United Negro College Fund, which, I mean, I know a lot of my friends, they literally got their whole tuition paid just by applying to them. And the way that someone expressed it to me was like, you know, if you spend this 1 hour on this scholarship and get $1,000, you literally just made $1,000 in 1 hour. You know what I mean? So it's just putting that in the back of your head and prioritizing your time within that function to realize that, you know, the outcome of this is worth my opportunity cost rather than going to, you know, do something else with that 1 hour that I could have been doing this. So just being mindful with your money, looking for scholarships like it's nobody's business, and being aware of those different things.
Thank you. Oh, was somebody about to? Abdi, were you gonna chime in on that?
Yeah. For me, I made that decision going into track and field fully invested when I went to my community college. That was my route. And I was like, it was realistic. I was like, I'm leaving home and I come from a low socioeconomic background myself. So I have to work twice as hard on the track and field. But I knew that I could work my way into a scholarship that would come with housing, that would come with, you know, meals, that would come with tuition paid for. And I paid a price. I had to sacrifice a lot of things, but it's 100% worth it. So if there's any athletes in here, I would say also look at HBCUs. Every HBCU program has, you know, very good athletic programs. Just look into it, do your research, and explore that as well as the academic and the merit-based scholarship.
Thank you for that. I also want to, since we're talking about finances and all that, tomorrow is basically all about finances. And so in the morning, we have sessions with different HBCUs and their actual financial aid reps. That's a rare opportunity. So would definitely encourage you all 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time right here on the same platform. So just be sure that you have registered using that same registration link, as well as how to fund your HBCU education, 11 a.m. to 12, and then attending your HBCU with the family at 1 o'clock. So just to hear more details about some of the things that you can do and that you have control over right now in community college to position yourself financially. Another question for you. What perception did you have about HBCUs before attending? And did it stay the same? Did it change?
I didn't have any but from Stump the Yard. When I tell y'all I didn't know about HBCUs, I thought it was like Stump the Yard. So when I went on the tour, imagine my surprise where it was like, okay, it is kind of yard because, you know, on the tours, they like turn up extra hard and stuff like that. So it was like, oh, okay, the sororities and all of that. I didn't know about any of it. It was like I was coming from up under a rock. So it was like, my eyes was like big. I'm like, I gotta get there. Like, this is where I belong. So it was just, and it's like I said, I'm here for the cause. Y'all need to go. No question.
Anybody else? If not, it's okay.
Question? Can you repeat the question?
Oh, what was your perception of what perception did you have about HBCUs before attending? And then did it stay the same, change?
So I had a high school guidance counselor that told me HBCUs money and nobody graduates and it's successful. So I initially was like, well, I want to be a chef, but like maybe I should go Spelman. Everyone goes to Spelman, right? So I thought that was a thing, and she shut that down. And it wasn't until I went on the HBCU tour, and I didn't really take it to heart. I was just like, she sounds a little bitter. Maybe I should take her advice. And I think after going on the tour and then having exposure to it, my perception obviously changed. And anytime I get a chance to say I went to Parkland University, I make sure I try to say it.
Appreciate you sharing.
Could just jump in on that because I had a similar experience to Belinda. So when I had initially when I got my acceptance letters to my UCs and CSUs, and I got into Berkeley and a few other, and I told one of my professors that, you know, he had went to, I think it was Cal Poly or something like that, and he was like, oh, so you're gonna go to Berkeley, right? Like, I mean, they have incredible stats, and you know, have all these amenities and all this other stuff. And I was like, well, no, I think I'm considering going to this HBCU fishing. He was like, well, why would you do that? He was like, they have a low stats on this, low stats on that. And, I kind of had to take a step back and look at it from a different, and look at it the fact that, your entire life, you're going to be looking at stats. Stats don't really tell a lot. If we only ever looked at stats, I mean, there wouldn't be a doctor right before Aaron is out settle, right? So yes, look at them and be aware of stats of these different things. But at the same time, I want you to understand that you make it the experience that you make it. So, I mean, initially going to HBCUs, I didn't really have a high understanding of what they were or what they're all about. But when I tell you that because of that open mindset, it completely revolutionized my way of thought and way of being. So pay attention to stats, but don't let those dictate your lives for sure.
The numbers don't tell the whole story at all. There's no context, no nothing. And we all know about all of the systemic issues and all of that. So thank you so much for that. I did want to highlight one thing that Tony had mentioned earlier when she talked about her HBCU tour. And at one point, tours will happen again. Definitely want to encourage students to participate if you are able to via your campus, via your Umoja community. Again, ask about those opportunities. And she didn't just go, even that way. It started as, oh yeah, I'll take this trip. But she started to plan, and planning by, okay, what is it that I'm interested in? What do I need? What am I looking for? So it's not just taking a trip, but making the most and getting the most out of that trip as well. So we've got a few more minutes. Another good question that came in, if you guys could speak to the overall social life at your campus, and how well did you connect with mentors and professors?
Obviously, for me right now, we're just transitioning back from COVID. So during the first year, I decided actually to stay back home in California. So everything was remote. But just like with everybody else, we were doing a lot of Zoom. We were doing a lot of Google Meet. Outside of class, all the organizations, they still maintain that, face to face through that. That was our best way. But now that I'm back on campus, you're starting to see, it's a mask mandatory campus right now, but you're starting to see events. They closed it. Usually it's an open campus, and you'll see the outside community at the games or at the events. But now it's usually just students only. It's very security's tough, so it's only students. So then that means we can go and you can go to the event, so you don't have to worry about contracting COVID, or it's socially distanced. So that's what it looks like right now. But in a regular year, I feel like everyone else can speak on it because their experience was outside of COVID.
At Dillard, social life was great pre-COVID. It was just so much activity, so much life, so much laughter, so many great things. It just was like the place to be. I definitely recommend guys just on socially. Like I met some great people, like people that are gonna be in my lives forever, like my best friends. I've met them at my university, in my dorm. I stated I was a residential assistant, so I came across so many people, so many different situations. It's just a great feeling just to know that you know a lot of people from other places of the world. It's not just California. I know people from some of my friends. I've been to literally my close friends. I have a close 4 friends. They're all from out of the different states as well. I've been to all of their hometowns, met their families and things like that. Like I wouldn't have met them if I was in Cali. Like, and now I'm just so happy that these are sisters. So it's definitely a nice feeling, guys.
I know Aries mentioned connecting with her professor and that relationship really being vital. And you were taking off your mic, so I'm gonna let you.
Oh yes, I was just going to say, when I first got to Southern, it was kind of like, okay, filling everything out. But when I took more of the psychology classes, getting to know the psychology teachers and faculty and everyone was like, wow, like they really take care of you. They really care about you. I remember when I was trying to get my courses articulated from LMC, my advisor was also my statistics professor. So we sat in her office for like an hour, over an hour. She helped me print everything out. She went back and forth between each website. Okay, print this out. This goes with this. Like, and I was like, wow, like what a blessing. Because if it was up to me, I would have been like, oh, I'm too busy for this, and I'll just do it later, and then it would have happened. I don't know when. So just having that like extra care and extra love from people you wouldn't even think. You go through school all your life and you're like, okay, that's my teacher, all right. But when you're at an HBCU, you just know they care about you more than you probably even understand, and so there's that. And like being a psychology major too, you get so many like opportunities. Just like Dr. Aaron will send us those emails with all the good stuff. My professor would do the same thing. He'd be like, oh, here's this internship, here's this conference, sign up for it, do this, do that. And so just having that constant stream of information and staying in the loop is invaluable. And then when it comes to social life, just like Tony said, it was beautiful. It was amazing. Going from like just going straight from school to work to home to like you're on campus and there's just so many people and there's so many things to do. Almost every week there's like a pageant or a game you can go to or just anything, and like experiencing Bayou Classic, that's a once in a lifetime type of thing. Amazing. Great, like have to go if you can, you should go. And also the same thing, like seeing my friends' hometown. My best friends are from Shreveport, so going up there during the holidays, seeing where they're from, going to their house, just getting to explore a little bit outside of just at school, is really cool because I didn't have my car when I went to Baton Rouge, so it was kind of like, okay, yeah, I'll ride with you, like, so just getting to see a little bit more of the state and going to visit New Orleans and stuff like that. It was just really, really nice. So the people you meet will really take you far at your HBCU for sure. They'll open a lot of doors for you, and there'll be lifelong connections. Like my best friends are also from Southern.
Thank you, guys. One thing I would kind of add to that about the professors aspect, like you all have said, those are different types of relationships that you're probably not used to having, but those are the types of relationships that you definitely want to cultivate. They will only help you, they cannot hurt you. And it's not just a teacher or a professor. These are ultimately, if you stay within your field, these will be your colleagues one day. So you will stay in connection and communication beyond just taking their class, just being at the university. Let's make this one of the last questions. Did community college give you the tools to prepare you to successfully transfer? And is there anything that you would have done differently while in community college?
When I decided to care, yes. To be completely honest, when I decided to invest and like show up, and I think showing up is like really half of the work, being present and asking questions and saying, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, I need help. There's going to be someone that's there to help you. And also like to speak about the professor piece on the HBCUs, like Clark Atlanta is a wonderful university. The AUC is beautiful and HBCUs are wonderful. I'm not going to sit here and say that every single professor has been easy to like get through their class. So we need to be grateful for those professors too, because they prepare you for the people that you encounter when you're in your day job. So like also recognize the professors are there to like challenge a better person, and it may not always be your style, but it's exposed to different. One thing I wanted to add to that.
Yes, it's not always that warm and fuzzy love. Sometimes it's that tough love, but both are valuable. You just have to see the value in it sometimes.
College, what it prepared me for was kind of what Jesus was talking about earlier, getting comfortable with spending time just by yourself. When I went there, like I said, I didn't know a soul, and it prepared me for coming to Alabama State when I didn't know nobody other than my mom, and she went right back on a plane to California, and it turned out just fine. But yeah, one of the reasons why at first when I started undergrad I didn't succeed was I never really cultivated a relationship with the professors. But then when I went to community college and it was a smaller setting, just like your HBCU classes will be a smaller class setting than a large university. I think Reese was the one that made a comment like, if you miss a class, they pick up on it. They're like, "Where were you?" That's really how it is. And I think just doing that at my community college and then taking those skills and the time that I put into, going to their office hours and all these, finding out about all these internships and opportunities that I was able to get that wasn't me. That was sometimes a professor throwing in my way and saying, "Hey, I think this would fit you. I think this would suit you," because they've been doing this forever. We're the students that are going through this transitionary period. So take full advantage of that. That's all I'd say.
Panelists, I can't say a thank you enough. I know in every email I've sent, I said thank you, thank you, thank you, but thank you so much for sharing your journey, your experiences, your wisdom, because the goal is, students, for you to these gems and to apply them wherever you are in your life, and to apply them once you reach that HBCU or whatever institution that you plan to go to. Of course, we want it to be an HBCU. So panelists, if you could put in the chat a preferred method of contact for any student that might be interested in reaching out to you at some point. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. If you've taken anything from what our panelists have said, like this, they're giving back. They were once in your shoes and they're giving back to community college students because they don't want to be the only ones that, are successful. They want you to be in these same places and beyond as well. And we want to be able to call on you guys to be part of these panels. So definitely take advantage of all of the resources available to you. Again, we have an awesome lineup of events for the rest of this week. The financial aid events tomorrow, and on Thursday we have a president's panel, so you can actually, as Jesus mentioned, you can actually hear from the actual president of I believe 5 or 6 of our HBCUs. Rare opportunity. And then in the evening on Thursday, you'll have the opportunity to connect with some of the campus culture. So 2 of our colleagues will talk about campus culture and going from California to an HBCU, to the South, to the East Coast, and a lot of those different maybe questions or curiosities you may have. And then you can actually connect with some of those campuses, those HBCUs, and if they have a California club, a California Alumni Association, Black Greek org, so fraternities, sororities, that will be another opportunity to, again, start to build those relationships. Even though we're in COVID time and everything's virtual, this is an opportunity to take advantage of those virtual networks and connections. And then last but not least, on Friday, we have our virtual HBCU transfer fair. So that will be the time to connect with the actual admissions folks at the different campuses. In the chat, you will see contact for our panelists. Again, take advantage of that. And please, please, please complete the survey. We love to hear your feedback because we're always striving to be better. We have our listserv so that you can stay tuned to all the different events that we have, not only this week, but for the rest of the semester. And last but not least, our student contact form. So students, as you're preparing to transfer, we can know who you are, because if we don't know who you are, we can't support you. So definitely do all of those things and utilize all the resources available to you. Take care, be safe, be well, and we hope to see you at a future event. Thank you, everyone. And I'll linger, of course, just in case there are any lingering questions. Bye. Thanks, Tony. I see the question about the president at Xavier University in Louisiana. He'll be participating in the President's Panel on Thursday morning. That will be at 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, thanks for joining us, everyone. And this is recorded, so we'll be sending it out as well. And Ebony, I am responding to you now in the chat if you're still there. All right, I will go ahead and leave then. Thank you all for the last folks standing here. Appreciate you for joining us. Bye.